Welcome to the bold analysis, ladies and gentlemen. The Jew and Neopolitics has been at the center of the emotive GMO debate in this country. And in this video, I will look at the reason why Moses Kuria needs to find time and sit down with Mwangi Kiunjuri, because the politics of this maize is not new in this country. But then, what is in the policy paper in charge when we lifted the GMO? Welcome to the bold analysis. This will be a very interesting podcast for you. So find an opportunity. I urge you to watch to the end because we're really going to talk matters widely. In the context of geopolitics and neopolitics, scientists are divided in opinion, or rather in what exactly objectively, what is really the effects, or rather what is in store, what is at stake at the GMO lifting. There have been three questions: whether can it lead to increased food productivity, harm the environment, impact on biodiversity on human health. But I just want to set aside the health aspect because I'm not an expert and I will be lying to get to that. I'll get to pursue an angle that is so close to me and something that I really want to look at. I want us to look at geopolitics, and the geopolitics in the whole GMO story will give us a very good perspective as we narrow down to what actually is happening in Kenya. That's why we're going to look at Moses Kuria's issue. Now, I bumped on a very interesting article written by a writer from Ethiopia, a gentleman known as Alazar Kabede. The article is GMO Profit, Power and Geopolitics. And in one of his interviews, he interviewed American professor who wrote this and said this about GMO, and I want you to see it in the screen. He's saying something. International economic relations, a well-known Michael Hudson, a well-known American professor in international economic relations, argued that American foreign policy has always been based on agricultural exports, not on industrial exports, as people may think. It's by agriculture and control of the food supply that American diplomacy has been able to control most of the third world. Professor Michael Hudson further noted that the project for a new American century and Wolf with Doctrine show that United States foreign policy is about power, control, and ensuring global supremacy at any cost. And a part of the plan of attaining world domination rests on United States controlling agriculture and hijacking food sovereignty and the nation's food security. That's what that article says. Now, I want to say a very big thank you to my good friend Anne Wairimu, all the way from UK. She recommended a book to me known as The Seeds of Destruction. You can look at it. Of course, I've got it and they've not paid for the advertisement, so there is no way you can display it here. And it is a book, I've really gone through it bit. You can buy it actually on Amazon, by William Engdahl. And William Engdahl, in that book, is trying to show how genetic manipulation and patenting of life forms are used to gain worldwide control over food production. And I just want to get something that he's saying about the GMO. He's saying something that all-rich Rockefeller family translated its massive wealth into political clout by capturing agriculture in US and globally via the Green Revolution. So GMOs also present more of the same aspect for the patenting and increasing monopolization of seeds by a handful of mainly United States companies such as Monsanto, DuPont, in buyer. Now, what the writer William Engbal is actually saying, I think I've got the pronunciation right, is that there are multinational companies that are producing these seeds, the GMO seeds, and these GMO seeds are patent. And so when you buy, they create bit of a monopolistic aspect so that you can only buy from them because it's patented. So part of a finding, a UK finding by Cambridge University, showed that that UK shows that in India, millions, Monsanto, the company, got a lot of money from farmers in India in recent years via royalties, and farmers compelled to spend beyond their means to purchase seeds and chemical inputs. Now, when you adopt the GMO aspect, and this one is not talking about the supply-demand curve, this one is talking about the seed aspect. You buy from these companies, you have to pay them royalties because the seeds are patented, and with that, they mint money from you. But then they're saying, due to that, the farmers in India took those seeds, they planted, and it did not yield the produce that is intended. So what happened? Most of them found themselves in debt, economic liberalization, and a shift from the GMO crops, a shift to GMO cash crops. And they had to leave the others they were doing because that is what was now becoming as now a profit-making venture. So that's just a bit of geopolitics, and from William Engbal's book, Seeds of Destruction, one of the things that he seems to be talking about is that the issue of food security is not only a national thing. At the geopolitics, it's what some other superpowers use to gain control and power of the third world countries. But I wouldn't want to delve there more. I said it was just going to give us a bearing. And just on that, I want you to watch this clip here. It's another scientist that is giving a very interesting aspect into this, because I think it is going to give us it's going to add value to what we were talking about.
I am the lab science director. I know a thing or two about food science. Now, what they have invented, when I say they, I'm talking about the genetic engineers, not only have they found a way to put these genetically engineered traits into food crops, they've now found a way to cause food crops to grow RNA fragments that can be specifically targeted, like bioweapons, to interfere with the physiological processes of targeted species that might eat the food. Now, this technology is called RNA interference technology. It's relatively new compared to GMOs, relatively new. It's being touted now as a technology to eliminate the use of pesticides, because what they're saying is they can cause a corn crop to grow RNA fragments that will kill the insects that eat the corn without having to use pesticides like toxic chemicals that overload the insect nervous system and kill it from nervous system breakdown and so on. This RNA interference technology is a pesticide technology, but it doesn't rely on pesticide chemicals. It relies on RNA fragments in the food. Now, what's disturbing about this is that this technology can be fine-tuned to target a specific race of humans who eat the food. I want you to follow me very carefully on this, because most people have never heard of this before. They've never heard of this technology. They don't know it can be targeted by race. Food crops can be engineered right now based on existing technology to cause infertility in black people alone. That technology is a reality. It's widely covered out there in the mainstream media, in the science media. RNA interference technology is widely covered. The government is at war with you. If you're black and you're watching this, the government is at war with you, and they want you to exterminate it, and they control the science funding, which means there will never be money for any genetic science of the food supply to uncover this truth if it were there.
Now, that's what at the geopolitics level, actually the writer is simply telling Africa that what is packaged in a trendy word and a captivating statement like feeding the world. For now, for example, here we've been told we want to feed people who are hungry. or imposing austerity measures to make sure that countries are food secure, the the intentions of the superpowers are just to control, and it should never be seen at face value. This might be, some countries may see it, others may not see it. So it can be intentional or non-intentional. Now, back home, the GMO has been narrowed to two aspects, and only one has been advanced. One is that we are importing maize, and the big argument is on helping us manage the prices of unga, because it's gonna work with the demand curve. That when we have the supply, and it's supposed to help. But then the other one is us taking the seeds. Apart from importing the maize, there is also taking the seeds. Maybe importing the seeds here, then we can use it here for our agriculture and grow our basket. But then I've looked at the problem statement. The problem statement from Waziri Moses Kuria was pegged on two things. One is that we have a shortage of maize. That is number one. Because on Waziri's front, I think on importation, Moses Kuria is talking about, I think, especially importation of the maize, but I think about the seeds might be the Ministry of Agriculture is dealing with. So, on problem statement was that we have shortage of rains. So MA and M, March, April, and May rains were not enough, and so we need to import to be food secure. I want to get this, and this was part of the speech by Moses Kuria. I think he made it a little bit more clear.
Even the rains that are going on are not to our satisfaction. We don't have good news for our, what you call MAM, March, April, May rains. As a government of Kenya, we cannot hide our heads in the sand anymore. We have taken two deliberate steps. They decided to allow GMOs into this country until we are satisfied that we have enough maize in this country, our staple food. Tomorrow I am signing a gazette notice to allow for importation of up to 10 million bags of maize, duty-free, for the next 6 months until we achieve food security. Because that is our cardinal responsibility as government. I know this may offend some people, both from a GMO and from importation, but I will do this, and we will do this as government.
So that is what Moses Kuria, I think that was part of the speech that he was speaking about. GMO can also kill us, but you need to add it in that list. I've removed that part because I really wanted you to get that other aspect. So what is also happening today is that Kenya Kwanza MPs who are publicly opposing this matter of the GMO have been called upon, have been prevailed upon, and have been suppressed. So powerful individuals within calling shots have called them not to, and they seem to not be willing. They're saying they're now using other avenues to address their issue. This conversation about GMO and the price of unga, or rather the maize that we're going to buy, it was never about that when we import the maize, when we import the GMO, it is going to erode our market, or rather it's going to play the demand curve. What happens is this: whether we import GMO or organic, we have done importation. We have added something we have added some maize in our granaries. So it was not about either it is GMO or it is organic. Actually, at that point, it's just on importation. So if you look at it, demand curve strategy is not linked to GMO, because at the end of the day, it's either organic or GMO, but you've put money. You've added it. You've added some maize, in the supply chain. So Serious Board is saying that farmers are keeping the maize and they are creating artificial shortage so that they can benefit. And on this, I remember when William RUTO was at I think it was in Kasarani inauguration, someone at one point, I think someone said, nikiweka Biblia chini, nitaadili na nyinyi. That is what he should do. The problem is on the distribution channels. And that's why I am saying that Moses Kuria should sit down with Mwangi Kiunjuri. The reason why Mwangi Kiunjuri left Agriculture Ministry is because of politics of maize. If you remember this clip, and
Waziri wa Kilimo Bwana Kiunjuri, tujue ya kwamba sasa mchezo umeisha. Tafuta hawa watu ambao wanakula mali ya wengine, utuletee tufunge, ama wewe mwenyewe utakuwa na shida katika hiyo shida mambo, kwa sababu hatuwezi kuwa kila saa pesa inatolewa na inakulwa na wachache.
And he is asking hard questions.
Lakini unasikia kuna mkulima ati amedeliver kwa NCPB mahindi ya shilingi milioni 200. Jameni, niambieni ni nani? Mimi niko na shamba na sio ndogo. Niambie ni nani mkulima ambaye anakuza Kenya hii mahindi ya shilingi milioni 200? Si ni ukora jameni? Si ni ukora? Mtu anavuka hapa kwa mpaka, anaingia Uganda, anatafuta mahindi, labda hata hatafuti, anakuja kumwaga. Mkulima ambaye ametoa jasho wa Kenya analaa njaa, watoto hawajasoma kwa sababu ya ukora ya wachache.
So that clip wraps up the problem. It's not that we don't have maize in this country. It's not that what is increasing the price of maize is not the availability. I think that's where we are not getting it wrong. It's not the availability. Actually, what we're importing is just in a jaza to our deficit. The problem in maize is, I think it's it's one of the most difficult cartels that William Ruto will break record if he deals with them. This is an aspect that you saw members of parliament from Ruto's county coming out to protest. Look at how deep it is. So that is why I say that on the politics of maize, it's a bit complicated. Now, that clip exhausts, and Ruto should just find some time and listen to it, and even sit down with President Uhuru Kenyatta as Moses Kuria sits down with Kiunjuri, so that they compare notes. My aspect is this, and I want to look at what government has been doing. By the way, on food intervention, it has been a multi-approach, where fertilizer subsidy, even though fertilizer subsidy cannot achieve it by itself, because when it comes to production, it's about environment, ability of the farmer, and the other aspects, and even fertilizer, and even the energy the farmer needs to feed. Number two, there have been the dams, construction of the dam projects that are being rolled so that when we have money, we can do irrigation farming, and through that we can, and also upscaling value chain. However, having looked at the geopolitics and our local supply chain is behaving, I just want to point out something to William Samoei Ruto. My only interest is not on the GMO maize, so I think that conversation is done and dusted. We should focus on, are we going to receive seeds that we can plant? Because I've seen Makueni receiving seeds, even though I understand there have been a trial on some maize, on some farming for subsistence farming, I think maize seedlings there, seedlings. And on this one, we need to be very careful. According to what I've gathered, GMO seeds, and experts can help me here, GMO seeds can't be replanted. And so we will keep on buying. That means that by the virtue of that buying, the cost of our production will be high. Maybe it can translate to good produce. However, what we should get protocols, our local regulation, in conformity with the international protocols, but we should not be very vulnerable, rather gullible to what can befall us. This is what I mean. If you are testing the seeds, let's not take it to the mainstream. If we take the seeds to the mainstream farmer and force it down their throat, then how about if we gamble with it and we don't get the produce? That our granaries will collapse. If we gamble with it, I think if it comes, there is a high probability, and if you do research, you'll realize that even what is being brought here, there is also track and trace. They are tracking and tracing the way the seeds are, where they're going to be planted, and the output and how it's coming out. So having learned from other countries, we should also be very careful that even if you're giving it, let's do it for subsistence farming a bit fast. Then when it works, because it's also subject to other environmental aspects that plays out. Now, we could experience catastrophic crop failures and collapse our granaries. There is intensive crop failure. If you go to, like, my mom, I think does cassava, used to do cassava and groundnuts. He can no more do that, and he has to do fertilizer. I think fertilizer tunanunua mara mingi sana. Ilsiaya people are, if you can't use fertilizer, you can't get produce because there is intensive crop failure. So if you're not careful, and I think the focus on legislation or any other regulation body that is coming, we should look at whether we are also going to bring the seeds. For me, this is what has not been exhausted, and it is my take that we can solve the problem. The conversation about GMO is very positive, and it's something that we need to look at. I finish with this clip by John Mutudo. Kindly subscribe to our channel.